Hi, I'm Jen, and if you haven't seen any of my other videos, let me give you a brief introduction. I lost my son Zuka, who was 18 years old, to suicide on August 20th, 2018. It just really tore the foundation of everything I believe out from underneath me. It's been the most difficult thing I could imagine going through in my life. I can't really say that too much has helped me, but a few things have made things a little lighter, at least, in the moment. So, I wear my son, this is an urn, around my neck and 3 hearts beside it. The 3 hearts symbolize always. They are past, present, and future. So, always love. I have a little Z here. Whoops. Can't even see. And green was his color. There are the hearts. So I wear that. He also had a tattoo going down his arm that I got him at the beginning of summer. And it said, "This too shall pass," in Hebrew. So I have this ring that has it in Hebrew on the outside and English on the inside. And a lot of us got "This too shall pass" tattoos. I do have one of those, but it's kind of hard to see. Has his name, a rose, and "This too shall pass." And I also got "You Are My Sunshine" on the top of my chest. So anyway, those are some of the things I've done that kind of help me feel like I'm carrying him with me. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how to support a grieving loved one. I think the first thing I noticed was that people weren't reaching out to me right away. Or what I heard from almost everybody is, "I don't know what to say." And really, there is nothing to say. There's almost nothing wrong to say. Just saying "I'm here" or "I'm sorry," or just reaching out and saying anything. Almost anything. I'll get to that in a minute. Is good. There's no right words to say. I've been through this loss now myself. And still, if I was reaching out to another, grieving mom or, grieving family member, I don't know what to say either. I just say, "I'm sorry. I'm sending you my love." Prayers is a kind of a difficult thing for me right now. To be honest, I've always been a believer, but when something like this happens, it kind of confuses things a little bit, and I have been sort of spiritually confused for the last couple months, but that's okay. I'm working through it. So do reach out, do come by, do call, do bring something if you can. At first, we weren't even thinking about eating at all, and never mind going somewhere to pick something up or even ordering something. Our first meals were all things that people had brought to us. Some people brought ready-made sandwiches. Some people brought fried chicken. Some people brought, whatever. Anything, I'm sure, would be appreciated. But it's really hard, especially to get out of the house the first few days and just not wanting to be seen in public. So bringing food or, or drinks or something like that is super helpful. Continue to use the deceased person's name. I've noticed, especially recently, and it's been a couple months now, that people don't want to talk about him or don't talk about him in front of me or don't use his name. And he's still very much a part of me. I love Zuka, and I want to, say his name. I want to talk about his memories. And I think a lot of people feel like they're going to make me uncomfortable if they mention him. And no, I still want to talk about him. And if something hits me and I cry, please realize that the person that you're seeing, like what you're seeing right now from me, isn't how I'm really feeling. We put on an act. We cover up our grief because we don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. So if by chance I do cry, you didn't make me cry. I might have been crying the whole day before you got to my house. And some might slip out, and that's okay. Crying is okay. So don't feel like you made someone cry. Just listening. You don't have to say any specific words. You don't have to preach a sermon. You don't have to have the perfect words to say. That's all okay. Just being there, just sitting there. I don't know, just helping out however you can, but you don't have to, have any expectation of how you're supposed to act or how the grieving person is supposed to act. They may act strangely sometimes. I know with myself, I have some issues with PTSD since losing my son. Loud noises give me panic attacks. And I might cry or feel like I can't breathe or feel like my throat is tightening up, and it just happens. And there's really nothing to do except for just, sit there and just, let the person know that you're there. Let's talk about some things that you probably shouldn't do to a grieving person. And one is ask too many questions. I have been open since the very beginning. We posted on social media after all the friends and family knew. At first, we had someone post who had happened to ride by our house, and they heard about it on the police scanner, and they knew whose house it was. And they posted on Facebook before anybody knew at all. So we had asked people if they knew to please be quiet about it until we made an official announcement. And I called, all of our relatives, or messaged them, or relatives called other relatives, and when we were pretty sure that all the relatives and very close friends knew, then we posted it on Facebook, and we said that he lost his battle with mental health, which of course says that he committed suicide, right? But we had a lot of people, especially strangers, messaging us, or messaging me in particular, and asking, well, how did he do it? How did he commit suicide? And it felt like a huge invasion of privacy. It felt like something that was personal between us and our son, and not something, I've shared it with people who are close to him and close to us, and, discussed what happened. But for strangers just to need the morbid details of his passing, I didn't think was appropriate at all. And I ignored them, or I blocked them, or whatever. Another thing not to say, which it seems like a very nice thing to say, but there are nicer ways of doing it. So please don't say, if you need anything, reach out. I know, at least for myself, it's really hard to reach out and be like, hey, I need help. hey, I want someone to come and just sit with me. And maybe that's my fault, but I've actually heard it from a lot of other grieving parents that they have a hard time asking for help or asking someone, hey, can you just bring us a jug of juice, or I don't know, whatever it is they need. And they don't know what you're offering. If you're offering to bring lunch, say, hey, can I bring you lunch? If you're offering to come sit with a person, say, hey, can I come and sit with you? If you're offering to take them for a ride, say that. Say what you're offering to them, not just if you need anything. Because if you need anything, just for me, it's not going to happen. I can be like super upset or need whatever, and I'm not going to ask for it from a message saying if you need anything. So maybe that's just one of those little things. Another thing is don't get offended. So I will have ideas like, oh, I want to go out. Yeah, I want to go hang out with people and I want to do things. And then at the last minute, sometimes I have a lot of anxiety about that. And I'm afraid. The big thing I'm afraid of is ruining people's good time. I'm afraid of being like a Debbie Downer and making everyone else upset because honestly, right now, the biggest thing I talk about is my son. I don't mean to, but he's constantly on my mind. And I talk about him all the time. And I know it can be really hard to be around a grieving person. So if they cancel plans or they want to be alone for a little while, then don't get offended. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the grieving person. I remember at the beginning, there were a lot of people around, and it was really awesome. But at one point, I was like, I just wish everybody wasn't here. And the reason why is because I needed to break down. I needed to break down big time. I needed to scream. I needed to cry. I needed to just get rid of, or not get rid of, but express the emotions that I was feeling. And I couldn't do that in front of other people. And, I feel bad because everyone was so helpful and so loving and caring. But I needed a little time alone. Please don't say that you understand what the person is going through. Unless you've been in that exact circumstance, don't say, I understand what you're going through. Before my son died by suicide, I had some friends, and their son died by suicide. And my son had been in the hospital probably 13 times at that time. And I remember telling them that I can kind of understand what you're going through because, my son has been in the hospital for suicidal ideation or attempts or hurting himself. But my God, I had no idea what they were going through. And when my son passed away, I had to apologize to them and say, I had no idea, because I really didn't. And if you haven't had your child die via suicide, or whatever this circumstance is that the person is grieving from, unless you've been there, you really, really don't understand. And even two people going through the same thing don't always go through it the same. So saying you understand just kind of, for me, it kind of pissed me off, to be honest, when people, it kind of like, felt like they were lessening my pain because they were talking about, oh, they knew someone really close to them who was suicidal, so they understand how it feels. Well, did they die though? I mean, if they didn't, especially in the same house as you, especially 4 feet away from you, then you probably don't understand. The next one is kind of strange. Don't comment on their ability to handle grief. At first, and no, it still happens now. It's been 2 months, a little more than 2 months. People, even in the beginning, were telling me, "Oh, you're doing such a great job, and you're handling this grief so well." But when people were visiting, of course I put on this face, right? I can do that. I can compartmentalize my feelings, and a lot of times they came over to visit and I was smiling and maybe not myself, but doing what looked like pretty okay. But as soon as they walked out the door, I was falling apart. One day I shut my front door and melted right against the front door, and I slid to the floor, and I just started crying because it's really, really tiring to keep on a face. It's exhausting to pretend you're happy. And also people telling me that I was doing so well made me feel like I think they don't see that I'm grieving. And so maybe they think that I don't love my son as much. And I'm sure that's not what it is, but you just overanalyze everything when you've just lost somebody. The other thing, the very last thing, is don't disappear. When I look in my support groups and talk to other people who've gone through tremendous grief, what they tend to say is that there's a lot of people there the first week and the second week, and then people disappear and don't check on you anymore. And one of the weirdest things is people think it's getting easier, but right now I'm having one of the roughest times. And it's been, a little over 2 months, and that's not a long time when you're grieving the loss of your child. But I think right now what's settling in is that he's not coming back. And the bargaining stage is over. I can't beg God anymore to bring him back. And that stage is over, and I'm realizing he's not coming back. And I have to live the rest of my life without him. And I can't imagine having to do that. And so that's the stage I'm going through right now. And I'm sleeping a lot, and I'm not going very many places. Half the time I don't even want to get dressed. I just want to be with him. I just want him back. So, again, the most important thing is just being there for your loved one that's grieving. Just being patient with them. And just continue showing up. Just continue calling. Just continue sending little letters. I got some little notes in the mail, which were so sweet. And people don't do snail mail anymore. But I got some cards with some handwritten messages and something on some really pretty stationery. And I kept all those, of course. And just any little way that you can just show someone that you care and that you're there is how to deal with a grieving loved one. Thank you for listening.